Hello, I'm going to talk about osteopetrosis and Erlenmeyer-flask deformity. Osteopetrosis is a bone disease that makes bones abnormally dense and prone to breakage. Erlenmeyer-flask deformity refers to a radiograph appearance typically on a femoral radiograph demonstrating relative constriction of the diaphysis and flaring of the metaphysis.
Osteopetrosis. Osteopetrosis, also known as marble bone disease and Albers-Schonberg disease, is a rare disease caused due to improper functioning of osteoclasts resulting in harder and denser bones. It is an inherited disorder. Bone marrow transplant is the most commonly used treatment for osteopetrosis.
It is caused by failure of osteoclast differentiation or function and mutation in at least 10 genes have been identified as causative in humans. Osteoclasts are highly specialized cells with the great bone mineral and organic bone matrix. These processes are crucial for bone remodeling and the maintenance of bone biomechanical stability and mineral homeostasis. The classic radiological features of osteopetrosis comprise diffuse sclerosis affecting the skull, spine, pelvis, and appendicular bones. Bone modeling defects at the metaphysis of long bones, such as funnel-like appearances.
This is a young patient who presented with neck pain. Frontal and lateral radiographs of the cervical spine were obtained. These radiographs demonstrate no evidence of fracture or evidence of degenerative disease. However, the bones have a diffusely sclerotic appearance with thickening of the cortex. As part of this patient's workup, a third radiograph of the pelvis and proximal femurs were obtained. The third radiograph demonstrates diffuse sclerosis of the pelvis and proximal femurs. While the differential diagnosis for diffusely sclerotic bones is broad, this patient had a metabolic bone disease known as osteopetrosis. In osteopetrosis, there is malfunction of cells known as osteoclasts, which are responsible for bone resorption. The bones become too dense. However, the bones are also at risk of fracture and dissolution. Other complications include anemia, infection, and multiple cranial nerve palsy secondary to increased osseous expansion of many of the neural foramina of the skull base.
Acquired bone disease including primary bone marrow disorders, heavy metal poisoning, bone metabolic disease, and other dysplasias. The delineation between the osteopetrotic and normal bone suggested a period of increased bone turnover followed by improved bone growth. This finding is more consistent with biophosphonated exposure than with an underlying genetic condition.
Alright, let's talk about osteopetrosis. Osteo means bone, petrosis refers to rock-like. So this is a disorder in which you have abnormally thick, heavy bones. It's an inherited defect in bone resorption. Now, if you remember, bone formation is a balance between osteoblasts, which lay on bone, and osteoclasts, which resorb bone. Now, this balance is constantly occurring throughout life so that you're always laying down some bone and always resorbing some bone. Now, a defect in bone resorption in which you're constantly laying down bone but can't resorb it results in an abnormally thick and heavy bone. Now, despite it being abnormally thick and heavy, it fractures easily. Think of it like a piece of chalk. A piece of chalk is thick, but you can easily crack it. Now, this disorder is due to poor osteoclast function. It has multiple genetic variants. Most important is the carbonic anhydrase 2 mutation, which results in a lack of acidic environment that's required for bone resorption. An acidic environment is necessary in order to remove calcium to resorb bone. Now, in order to generate an acidic environment, the enzyme carbonic anhydrase is necessary. Carbonic anhydrase combines water and CO2 to make up H2CO3. Carbonic acid then breaks up into a proton and bicarbonate. Now this proton, which is the acid, leaves the cells, and this is what creates the acidic environment necessary for bone resorption. If osteoclasts don't have the ability to generate this acidic environment, they won't be able to resorb bone, and this is exactly what occurs in the carbonic anhydrase 2 mutation. The clinical features of osteopetrosis include bone fractures. Now remember, although the bone is thick, it's going to be very weak, hence it's more prone to fractures. And this is because there is no proper balance between the osteoclasts and osteoblasts. And in order to make strong bones, you need to have a balance between the osteoclasts and osteoblasts. Patients can also have anemia, thrombocytopenia, and leukopenia. So now this occurs because the thickening of the bone replaces the medullary space, which is called a myelophysic process. Myelophysic process which knocks out the ability for hematopoiesis. Hematopoiesis, which means generating blood cells. So if hematopoiesis is knocked out, individuals end up with anemia, low red blood cells, thrombocytopenia, low platelets, and leukopenia, low white blood cells. These individuals end up with extramedullary hematopoiesis, so this blood cells are going to be made outside of the bone marrow, either in
Ecuador, due to the lack of the instrument exams and other methods to diagnose the disease, the prognosis of life is low. People have to go to another developed countries to pay for the proper exam to diagnose osteopetrosis, among other bone disease. A total of the $10,000 consisted of the genetic exam and control exams, aside from the pharmacology treatment, which consists in $200 for 15 milliliters of the calcitriol each day.
This story begins with one desperate grandmother in a far-flung northern Russian republic called Chuvash. Her grandson Kirill was diagnosed with a horrible genetic disease called osteopetrosis, petrifying bone. He was already blind, and the doctor said he would soon go deaf and soon after die. The grandmother, a cleaning woman who only knew Russian, searched the internet. She found the name Hadassah and sent a letter in Russian. The next day, she received an answer back in Russian. I can help your grandson. Kirill's life was saved by Hadassah hematologist and researcher Polina Stepensky, whose family came to Israel when Russian Jews were set free. Working together with geneticist Professor Orly El Peleg, Dr. Stepensky's research has been published in the world's top journals. She had already cured hundreds of children in Israel with genetic diseases.
They told me that forget about medicine. You cannot be a medicine because in Israel only genius graduating medical school, and I went to nursing school in Rambam. I came to Hadassah in 1994 and started my university study here at Hadassah, and finally I graduated Hebrew University Medical School, and I did all my professional career here at Hadassah.
Meet Gleb and his mother Svetlana, a pediatric neurologist. We never thought of this disease when our 2-month-old was sick. We were told he had some atrophy of the optic nerve, maybe hydrocephalus, but the diagnosis was wrong and he got worse. The doctor said it might be osteopetrosis. Because I'm a doctor, I consulted the top professor in Moscow. He shook his head. Gleb's case was hopeless. I can't express all my love, respect, and admiration for Dr. Stepensky. We are so thankful for all the help. Thousands of children are saved, among them our beloved son.
These conditions vary greatly in their presentation and severity, ranging from neonatal onset with life-threatening complications such as bone marrow failure, to the incidental finding of osteopetrosis on radiographs. The surveyed infantile form of osteopetrosis are associated with diminished life expectancy, with most untreated children dying in the first decade as a complication of bone marrow suppression.
Is vergeten, maar plaats voor jou in mij. Nooit heb ik geweten dat wat ik zocht ben jij. Als je ze laat en ik heel even niet met jou kan zijn. Zoveel maan, zoveel geluk en toch nog maar zo klein. Als je ze laat, als onze liefde even rusten mag. Zie je niet dat ik de hele tijd al naar je lach. En ik kijk naar jou met heel mijn hart. Als je slaapt. Jij blijft naar me kijken, verliest mij niet uit het oog. Telkens weer zo onzeker, maar je ogen blijven droog. Jouw hart, zijn lach klinkt als muziek in mijn oren. Moeder meer als zingt, omdat jij bent geboren. Als je ze laat en ik heel even niet met jou kan zijn. Zoveel maan, zoveel geluk en toch nog maar zo klein. Als je ze laat, als onze liefde even rusten mag. Zie je niet dat ik de hele tijd al naar je lach. En ik kijk naar jou met heel mijn hart. Van geluk kan ik al leven. Dus neem deze glimlach die ik jou zo graag wil geven. En ik hou van jou met heel